Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight. As you can see by the headline, could Marcus Rashford return to Manchester United? That's the big talking point now. I think 4 different journalists dropped stories at the exact same time. Now what does that tell you? Does that tell you maybe that the season is coming to an end and Rashford is maybe angling for a move and his representatives are putting some feelers out there? That may be the case, but we'll talk about it nonetheless, guys. We've also got we've got a raft of things to talk about, in fairness. We're going to talk about the Matchday Squad that's going to Chelsea and what does that mean for the Europa League final coming up next Wednesday. We're going to talk about Ruben Amorim. He has been quite clear in what he wants for the upcoming summer transfer window. He's been doing a couple of interviews and Sky Sports have been speaking about it as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. We're going to talk about Alejandro Garnacho, guys. He supposedly has been recalled to the Argentina national team again. And what does that mean for us? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And finally, as well, a former left back for Manchester United who's gone to the continent and doing really, really well is now a target of Real Madrid, but United do have an option and for kind of first refusal on him. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But as always, guys, your opinion matters. Get your comments, get your thoughts, get your opinions into the live chat. I want to know what you're thinking. If you're listening back at a later stage, let me know in the comment section below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new. Like I said, we're on the road to, what are we on the road to? I think 15,000 subscribers now. So yeah, look, I do appreciate it. It's absolutely fantastic. So smash that, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. But guys, we're going to start, as you can see in the title of the headline. The main story is in relation to Marcus Rashford in the past. I was going to say a day or two, but it's actually not. It's in the past hour or two because, over the last, let me see, what time did these drop at? Yeah, maybe about 5:15 from 4 or 5 different journalists. Simon Stone was the first one to drop, and that was in relation to Marcus Rashford returning to Manchester United. He says, obviously BBC, sources close to Marcus Rashford expect him to return to Manchester United's pre-season training in July. So there we go. And what did we say a few weeks ago when we were talking about Rashford? The last thing I want to see is Marcus Rashford rocking out, his denim jeans over in America on pre-season tour. I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And that's not Marcus Rashford specifically. That's anybody that we're trying to offload, because we've seen it too many times over, the last decade, I suppose, where you're trying to clear out the squad and all of a sudden these players are lingering around in pre-season, and we just want to see fresh faces coming in, don't we, as quickly as possible. But following on from that report, guys, Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail reported that Marcus Rashford can leave Manchester United for £40 million this summer, but Aston Villa do not have the first option on the England star. And look, I think this was quite clear. We said it basically from day one, didn't we? And a lot of people in the chat were saying the same thing, that Marcus Rashford's long-term aim, I don't think, was ever Aston Villa. I don't think it ever was. And look, while I'm actually going to go check the league table, because obviously they're in the hunt for Champions League football, and they currently sit in 6th position. So I mean, it is very tight. They could still finish as high as 2nd if results went their way. But nonetheless, I do think that Marcus Rashford's goal when he was leaving Manchester United his end goal was never Aston Villa. We know that he was hanging on for long periods of time trying to get a move to Barcelona, and that was his main destination. As we know, Villa signed Rashford on loan for the rest of the season in January and can make the deal permanent for 40 million when it runs out at the end of the season. But again, they would have to obviously pay 40 million for him. But again, he reiterates the fact that it's understood that there's nothing to stop other clubs buying him for the same price if United and the player agree to the move. So basically, Villa can put in their 40 million bid all they want. It doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to end up staying at Villa. Another report then came from Samuel Luckhurst, and this kind of links into maybe the lack of real clarity around him staying at Villa, and it's to do with his salary. Samuel Looker says Marcus Rashford is not prepared to take a wage cut on his £325,000 a week salary, which would restrict him to a handful of potential suitors in the summer. I think he's going to have to. I'm going to call, bullshit on this one, to be honest with you. Marcus Rashford can't expect to garnish that same salary elsewhere, whether it would be Barcelona, Aston Villa, Juventus, PSG. I mean, PSG don't even pay that kind of money anymore. I just don't think it happens, to be quite honest with you. The only place you're getting that kind of money is Saudi, and I don't see him going there because he wants to supposedly challenge for the highest honours in Europe. So, again, I mean, James Ducker in the Telegraph says something very similar. United will be able to, or Marcus Rashford will be able to leave for 40 million, and Villa do not have first refusal. So, look, I think at the end of the day, we are going to see Marcus Rashford come back to Manchester United. We are. Now, whether he goes on pre-season tour with us, that remains to be seen. I think it's quite clear that both parties want separation here, Manchester United and Marcus Rashford. And I think Ruben Amorim is the type of manager that will say, okay, well, look, you're not in our future plans. You're not coming on pre-season tour. I'm not wasting a spot on pre-season tour for you when I can bring, Chido Obi, or I can bring whoever the case may be, that we're getting in the summer. And I think that's vitally important. I really, really do. Now, my concern here, and it's I won't say it's a big concern yet, but it's certainly it's right there. It's right there, and it's annoying me. Is the fact that Marcus Rashford leaving Manchester United might not happen until the latter stages of the transfer window, and that's always a concern, because what happens is if it gets dragged out, suitors getting smaller and smaller. All of a sudden, you're left with one or two clubs. If he doesn't want to lower his salary, the club goes no. And what happens? We're stuck with Marcus Rashford again. Or you're trying to put him out on loan again. And that's very quickly, before the transfer window closes, you're trying to offload him. And then that just means that his value is decreasing because he's coming back the following summer. He's got 1 year left on his deal. His valuation goes down, so on and so on. And it just turns into a nightmare. It really, really does. So I can see Marcus Rashford coming back in the summer. I really can. Villa are not going to be able to afford his salary. If he's not willing to lower that salary, Villa are just going to walk away. And I think they probably look like they would rather Asensio than Marcus Rashford, to be honest with you. Now, Barcelona, if they come in for him, I mean, Barcelona are not, are they going to pay €325,000 a week for Marcus Rashford? I can't see it. My opinion is he has to lower his wages, or else we're going to get stuck with him again. And that's not what we want to see. It really, really isn't. But let me know what you think in the comment section, guys. Obviously, it looks like Marcus Rashford is going to return, at the end of the season. But again, I mean, what do we do about that? Do we look to offload him as quickly as possible? I mean, should there be deals trying to be done now? Maybe these reports coming out are, Rashford's representatives. And to be honest with you, they might not even be Rashford's representatives. They could be maybe stories being put out there by Manchester United. You hope that's not the case, but maybe they're trying to get the ball rolling as quickly as possible and saying, look, well, we want him off the books as quickly as we can, and we want a deal done for him as quick as possible. We don't want it dragging out. He's taking a huge salary home every week, and we know what that means for the infrastructure at United in terms of going out and buying new players and reinvesting that money into areas that can build a squad. So, yeah, I mean, this could literally be coming from either side. It really could. Who have we got in the chat anyway? Passat is in. Good to see you, man. Cloud says, are you going to talk about the goalie position today? There's nothing, to be honest, there's not an awful lot to talk about, with the goalkeeper spot. Obviously, we all know that we could have a better goalkeeper. That Milinkovic-Savic report that came out last week is the last we've heard about a potential goalkeeper. It's gone very quiet since then. And reports have suggested that Amorim is actually a bit of an admirer of Onana in terms of his mentality and his, mentality is probably all, really. Brian is in. Evening, Jack. Hope you're well. Good to see you, Brian. Pizzat says, what do you think tomorrow, Man United versus Chelsea? Well, we will be doing a watch along for it, guys. I will have a quick match preview, a kind of a prediction up tomorrow around lunchtime, so keep an eye out for that as well. D is in. He says he wouldn't get a game at Barcelona. And again, I mean, that's the issue, you know. What kind of rebuild are Barcelona going to do? How are they going? Well, I won't say rebuild, because obviously, you know, they were in the Champions League semi-final, but how are they going to strengthen over the summer is a big issue there for them. So it remains to be seen. But again, I don't see Barcelona coming in with 325,000 for Marcus Rashford a week. I just don't see it. I really don't. Then kind of wages. I think with FFP now, I just don't think he can do it. I honestly don't think he can do it. I really, really don't. Unless, you know, you're winning leagues, you're winning Champions Leagues every year, then yeah, I suppose you can. But I do think that these 300,000 plus a week outside of Saudi Arabia, I think it's going to be kept for top tier players like, you know, Mbappe or Yamal or whoever else it may be. You know, I don't think Marcus Rashford has the CV to garnish €325,000 a week. Now, we were stupid enough to give it to him a couple of years ago under previous owners and previous management, but it wasn't the only stupid decision that they made in the preceding 10 years, you know. Brian says, can't see him having much involvement in pre-season if he comes back. Maybe the Asia games. Ineos want all business done early, which would include sales. And you are spot on, Brian, with that. They do want, you know, deals done, and they do want to move players on as quickly as possible. However, you do have to be realistic about this as well. You know, you just can't get everything done within a 4-week period. And as well, the issue with this summer transfer window is that it closes and reopens again. So the summer transfer window, I think, is open for about 10 days, is it? Maybe 2 weeks. It closes when the Club World Cup starts. And as soon as the Club World Cup ends, it reopens then at the start of July again. So it's going to be interesting to see what deals can be done. And look, again, I think incomings are probably going to be easier, not easier to do, but easier to announce maybe, or deals can be done probably quicker for deals coming in, because we're looking at somebody like Cunha at the moment who wants to come to Manchester United. You're going to be looking at someone like you know, Liam Delap potentially, whose wages are probably not going to be an issue. So it's a deal you can get ironed out relatively fast. However, we get Champions League football. Does Osimhen come into the picture? Does Gyökeres come into the picture? There may be deals that might drag on a little bit more when you've got competition for them. You know, so I do think we can get some deals done and get them over the line ASAP and relatively fast in the window. But I think outgoings, especially with somebody like Marcus Rashford, you could probably put Casemiro into that category if we do decide to sell him. I mean, these guys are under no obligation to leave €325,000 behind them on the table and sign a deal worth 200 grand a week with Aston Villa. That won't happen. They just won't give up the money, you know, and that's the issue and that's the concern. So we're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, it's going to be a busy transfer window for United nonetheless. Speaking of busy transfer windows, Ruben Amorim has kind of laid out his plans, and this has come from Sky Sports. He's been doing some interviews today with, I suppose, in the build-up to the Chelsea game, and of course then there's going to be a lot more interviews coming in the build-up to the Europa League final next week. But he has been speaking about, I suppose, the summer coming up and what it means for Manchester United and what he actually wants. And Melissa Reddy from Sky Sports has been speaking about it, and she says that Ruben Amorim wants and needs in the market centre around a few elements. A more technical and versatile profile, comfort in dominating possession, greater dynamism in ball progression, high durability and conditioning, proven strength of character to adapt and thrive in tough conditions. Well, no shit, Melissa. You would want that. I mean, that's the ideal player. You know what I mean? It's absolutely the ideal player. But look, I can understand exactly where, you know, we're coming from here with what Ruben Amorim wants and how he wants to rebuild this squad. And it's been quite clear to see this season, and maybe over the last couple of seasons, that Manchester United are severely lacking when it comes to a number of areas in terms of the profile of players that we have. And you're talking about, look, I do think we've got technical players. I genuinely do. Bruno Fernandez, a very technical player. Ahmad, very technical player. Garnacho is a very technical player. I think even when you go back to the likes of, I think Luke Shaw is a very technical player. Yoro is a technical player. We do have technical players in our team. But where we lack, I think, is, first and foremost, is real athletes. I think we lack athletes in our team. Big, powerful, strong, physical players who can play football as well. And there's no, I suppose, there's no counter argument to signing the likes of some of the players that we've been looking at over the last couple of seasons that we didn't get. That chap from Everton sticks in my mind. Onana, centre of the park. Very technical player, but he's about 6'4". Big, strong, physical guy who can get end to end. You're talking about dominating possession, and that is something that needs to be improved. So that is absolutely a characteristic that players coming in need to be comfortable with, because if they're not, and you're coming into the Premier League and you're getting closed down quicker and you're getting less time on the ball and it's a lot more physical, you've got to be comfortable in possession, and you've got to be willing to go and try and take the ball. And I think that's absolutely vital in the Premier League, in any league really. You want to have players with a set of fucking balls on them that are going to go and take the game by the scruff of the neck. So yeah, I mean, look, all of these attributes that we're talking about here, a lot of them are lacking in this Manchester United squad, and we've said it multiple times, that we're out muscled too easily, we're outrun too easily, we're out fought, and there is the mentality side of it as well, where you're talking about, you want players to be able to drag you through games and go, no, this is not good enough, and hold other players accountable on the pitch. I seen a clip from a TikTok account yesterday of the game against West Ham on the weekend, and this is just a fan who's got a TikTok account who goes to all the games. He's in the Stretford End, and he was recording Mason Mount passing a ball back to Harry Amas. Mason Mount gave him a terrible ball up into the air when a low pass could have been given, and Harry Amas's first touch put it out over the touchline for a West Ham throw, and it wasn't his fault. It was actually the ball that was received to him by Mason Mount. And Mason Mount said, "Come on, relax, will ya?" If that was me, and I know Harry Amas is a young kid and he's coming up to it, if that was me, I would have gone straight back at him and would have said, "You give me a fucking proper pass." You know what I mean? And these are the kind of things you want to see more out of this Manchester United squad. I want to see them arguing more. I want to see them holding each other accountable on the pitch, because you see the manager doing it from the touchline. But we've got a mentality within this squad of just, it'll be all right, and look, I'm not blaming Harry Amas here in any way. He's a young player, and, he looks like he's got great, mentality and potential. And when you are young, it's harder to do that to more senior players. But you want to be getting guys holding each other accountable on that pitch and be able to eat the head off a lad, and not, meaning that they're never going to speak to each other again. Fucking get your first touch right. Well, pass the fucking ball right to me then. These are the kind of things you want to be hearing on the pitch. And then when it's over, they're putting their arms around each other. Actually, don't even put your arms around each other going down the tunnel. They just give each other a nod and everything is rosy in the garden. That's what you want to do. Now, Melissa Reddy has gone on to say in this report that Manchester United do not want expensive mistakes, but are also cautious of just signing players with potential rather than the immediate difference makers desperately required. Selling well remains a key focus. Beyond nips and tucks to the first team, the Jason Wilcox-led drive to increase their talent pool in the 18 to 20-year-old age group will continue. Now, and this is the fine balance, guys, that we've been talking about. Look, Jason Wilcox at 100%, I think, is doing a good job, because he's identifying young talent alongside the likes of Havel there. They do know what they're doing, in fairness to him. But you've got to be able to balance the future prospects with the ready-made, we need these guys now. you know. And when you're looking at Acuna, for example, prime example of a player that's coming in and that's ready to hit the ground running, and that will, you know, Cunha will absolutely come into this team and will hit the ground running and be that ready-made signing. Now, you're talking about the Jason Wilcox-led approach where, you know, increasing the 18 to 20-year-old pool of players with massive potential. Fantastic. Keep doing that. Absolutely keep doing that, because that means that will replenish the first team squad every couple of seasons with a couple of new players that you don't have to go out and spend 50 million on. But for now, we've got to stay afloat. So we've got to be able to go out and balance up them young talents that are ready in 2 or 3 or 4 years' time with quality players that are ready to play now. And that's where you've got to be smart. If Manchester United don't have a war chest to spend this summer, you've got to be very smart about who you identify. The likes of Cunha is coming in. We're talking about around 63 million, but it looks like United are going to get a deal over the line where installments are made, where it's not a big payoff this summer, and then you can reinvest the dividends back into, you know, what your other areas of the field that you gotta improve. So I mean, it's a fine balancing act. It really, really is. But look, I mean, it's going to be an exciting summer. It really, really is. And, you know, I make no doubt about it. Ruben Amorim is desperate to improve this squad with players that are ready to go now. You know, and why shouldn't he? Any manager would be the same. You know, if I'm going in to manage a team, which I actually am at the start of next season, we'll talk about that later, you know, you got to be able to sign players who are ready to play. And, you know, from Monday, I'm going to be making phone calls, you know what I mean, to players who we could potentially sign. That's what it's all about. Now, there's also, this is how it works throughout any club, there's also an underage team, an underage structure in the club that I am involved with. And I'll be looking to bring up some of the under 18 players to maybe come in and out of the squad every now and again. You know, but you've got to get it balanced right. You've got to get that balance right. And Ruben Amorim is absolutely well within his rights to demand from the board ready-made players to go into this team. Or else we will probably find ourselves struggling in mid-table next season. You know, you would hope this season has been an anomaly, you know, and that it doesn't happen again. But you never know. You never know. If we do bad business in the summer, you know, we don't get rid of the players that we think we're going to get rid of. We don't sign, you know, the maybe 3 or 4 ready-made players that we think we're going to get. All of a sudden, you're going to find yourself in mid-table again. You're going to be struggling. But again, I mean, we go back to the same point that we've been going back to, you know, for the last few weeks now. Europa League final victory is vital. It's absolutely vital. It is. It really, really is. Anyway, what are you saying in the chat? Get your comments in here. D says, if he doesn't get properly backed, I better see the same level of protest for Ineos out as I did for Glazers. Yeah, and look, now, what we have to be careful with here, the Glazers didn't even try to put a structure in place. You know what I mean? You can never put Ineos in the same, in my eyes, and people are entitled to their own opinions, and I respect your opinions. But Ineos will never, ever be in the same bracket as the Glazers, in my eyes. At least they've tried to put a structure in place where they're getting the likes of Wilcox, the likes of Avel, the likes of Omar Barada to run the club properly and identify players in a scouting structure behind the scenes. You know, so if we go out this summer and we don't get the targets that we were looking at, and we have to settle for maybe second option or third option, whatever the case may be, it's not out of the lack of trying, in my opinion. I do still think Ineos are wanting to sign the best players available for the right price. You don't want to overspend either. So I don't think we can put the Glazers and Ineos in the same bracket. I genuinely don't think we can. And it is always difficult when you're seeing, you know, people losing their jobs, and you hate to see, you know, the manager and some of the players having to pay for, you know, staff members to go to the final. I don't agree with that at all with Ineos. But what I do agree with Ineos is what they're doing on a larger scale. The structure behind the scenes, identifying players, having a plan in place over the next few years of where we want to be and where we want to get to. That's what I agree with. But yeah, let me know. Let me know what ye agree with and disagree with. D also says they've not a spine between them. Highland seems to have a go at folk sometimes, and Bruno tells them as well, but that's it. Young Sauce is in. He says, I really hope Ruben rests some players tomorrow. I don't want any surprises for Wednesday. D says, guarantee Garnacho shits the bed out his head down and shuts off when somebody says anything negative to him. Well, maybe he's got to get used to that. You know what I mean? And they're the standards that you got to set. And if you lose a few players over that, over a season or two, but eventually that culture starts to come back, and that sense of, you know, real, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, holding people accountable for their actions. If you do that over an extended period of time, eventually you will create a culture within that dressing room and within the squad and within the club itself, that when new players come in, everybody is on the same wavelength. So if a new player is coming in and he doesn't do it in the first game, and you fucking, you know, there's 2 or 3 players having a go at him, he's going to go, right, I need to up my fucking game here. Like the story of Roy Keane, when anytime they signed a new player, the first thing Roy Keane would ever do in the very first training session is he would kick a ball at the new player as hard as he could. And if his first touch was off, or it bounced away from him, or it went under his leg, he would make sure the other player would hear him going, Jesus Christ, where do we get this lad from? You know, and that's it. You either sink or swim. And if you sink, then bye-bye. But there'll be players that will eventually come in that will swim. And they're the ones that you want to have beside you when you're going into battle. And that's it, you know. If we get Champions League, we could get good players, says Passat. We certainly could. We could get good players without Champions League football as well. It remains to be seen, but let's see what happens, and let's see how we get on. Smash a like on the video, guys, if you haven't done so already. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel as well. Like I said, on the road to 15,000 subscribers, so do hit that subscribe button. I don't know what I usually have the subscriber count up here, but I'll fix it for the next day. But yeah, I appreciate it. And I always have the clock as well. What am I after doing with the clock? Where's the clock? Sorry now. There we go. There's the clock. There's the clock. There we go. Now we all know the time. Thanks be to God. Right, guys, want to move it on. Before we do, D says, this is Man United. It's not 9 to 5 where you show up, put the performance in just to get by. This is Man United, and they've not a bollock among them. Well, look, there is within there. There is. I genuinely do think there is. You know, Casemiro, Bruno Fernandez, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Onana. These are all players with good mentalities, in fairness to them. They might not always perform on the pitch, but they've got good mentalities. And I think if you can keep a strong core of players with mentalities like that, like if Casemiro, Onana, and let's say De Ligt was to leave in the next few years, you've got to replace them with senior members who have got, you know, high standards. And I think if you bring in 1 or 2 of them every season, then you can afford to lose 1 or 2 at any stage without losing the real control of the dressing room and control of the standards. You know what I mean? Now, guys, I want to talk about Alejandro Garnacho a little bit. Reports coming out today have suggested that he is now in line to be recalled to the Argentina national side. It's been reported by Gaston Edul, who is a pretty substantial football journalist in Argentina, million followers on Twitter. And look, I mean, Garnacho was left out in the last couple of squads, and look, it's understandable for a young player who's playing in a team like Manchester United who are going through, you know, some troubles and, you know, the usual malarkey. But what does it mean for Manchester United, and what does it mean for Garnacho? And you know, let me know in the comment section below, guys. Do you think it's a positive that he is back in Argentina's national team? And I think it is a positive, to be honest with you. You know, you've got a player like Garnacho who's young and still very impressionable and still learning the game. And, you know, you want to get him playing high-level football as much as you possibly can. And let's be clear and let's be honest here. He hasn't got an awful lot of that at Manchester United this season. You're talking about a few games in the Europa League and, he has scored some goals for us this season. But over the course of the season, he has been pretty ineffective, or pretty inconsistent, I suppose is the right word to use. And you can understand that with young players. You really, really can. So getting him back into the Argentina national side where he's playing with top tier players and he's playing against top tier opposition, and potentially, getting back into the squad on a consistent basis where he could be playing in a World Cup next year, it can only be a positive for Manchester United if Garnacho sticks around. And there has been a lot of reports over the last few weeks suggesting that Garnacho could potentially leave. And if he does leave, I'll be disappointed. I won't lie. I'll be disappointed because I do think there is a player there, and I do think eventually he will come good. But if he leaves, the sentimentality is gone with me now. I will just go, right, okay, well, where are we spending that money? How much are we getting, first and foremost? What? 60 million? Right, brilliant. Where are we putting that 60 million? How will we reinvest in it? That's what I will be saying. If he does decide to go in the summer, the fact that we're talking about him getting into national teams here and national squads again, or if he does go next year or the year after, whatever the case may be, if he's playing for his national team, it's only going to add to his profile. And adding to his profile means the price goes up, and that's a good thing for Manchester United. Look, Garnacho is dividing opinions. He really is. Let me take a drink of water before we get to this. That's high quality H2O. Garnacho is dividing opinions within the United fan base. He really is. Do I want to see him go in the summer? I would like to see him get another year. That would be my opinion. I think Ruben Amorim coming in, completely changing tactics and completely changing formation, and something that Garnacho is not used to. We always say, don't we, that a player coming to Manchester United deserves 2 years before you really start to judge him. Now, Garnacho has had more than 2 years. But what I mean is, it's been such a culture change and such a tactical change and a formation change with Ruben Amorim that I think discarding Garnacho after 6 months of this new system, I think would be a little bit premature. I do. I would like him to get another full season under Ruben Amorim and see how he can develop within this system. Now, I reiterate what I've said. If he decides to go and we get good money for him and get players in that are ready to play an Amorim system instantly, then that is a positive as well. But again, I'm not going to disagree with somebody who thinks Garnacho should leave now. But I won't disagree with you on that. I just think it would be beneficial from a United standpoint to give him another 12 months and see how the development goes. If in 12 months' time he's still not able to play Amorim's system, then, or even by January, I think that would be fair, in my opinion. It really would. But again, like I said, guys, let me know what ye guys think. 31. So I'm just taking notes here of all these because I'm going to use them as clips. Let's see what you saying here. D says, sell him yesterday, sell him tomorrow. I've not a clue how he's been recalled for the Argentina. He's absolutely honking. But do you not think, let me throw this back at you, D. Do you not think the fact that he's so young and the fact that there's been a major change in the formation and the tactics, and for large parts under Ruben Amorim, he has looked like our most dangerous player. The issue is, first and foremost, decision making, and then, really getting his eye in on goal where he's putting his chances away. And I think both of them are issues that young players deal with all of the time. All of the time. Young players' decision making isn't good. And also, for strikers, you're talking mid-20s before, now we're talking, and look, Gyökeres is a prime example, couldn't do it for Coventry, he couldn't do it in the Premier League. Who was he playing for? Anyway, it doesn't matter. He went to Sporting Lisbon, a little bit older, and all of a sudden just caught fire and absolutely took off. And I think Garnacho could be the same, guys. I really, really do. Garnacho is so, he's a young kid. What age is he? He's 20. He's 20, lads. He's 20, you know. I mean, yeah, he's 20 years of age. I think he deserves another season. I genuinely do. I think if we discard him too soon, I think we could really regret it. I really do. He's proven that he can play in the Premier League on a consistent basis, and he's always available. He's always available. He has played, I think, because I heard this on Talk of the Devils last week. He's played ever since the Man City game where Ruben Amorim left him out of the Matchday Squad. He's been involved in every single game bar one. So he's had minutes in every single game bar one, and I think he started 95% of every game or something like that under Ruben Amorim. He's constantly available. He's constantly fit. He seems to have gone down the right path under Ruben Amorim, where Rashford went the other way completely. I just think he needs more time to develop. I think he needs more time to develop. I really do. Like we're looking at academy players that are coming up into our squad now that and you know, and we're talking about them being good players, you know, but that still need time to develop. Toby Collier, right? Toby Collier is 21 years of age. So he's a year older than Garnacho. And we would say about him, no, he needs more time. He needs more time to develop. He's only been in the first team squad, you know, 6 months, 7, 8 months? So he needs time to develop. And damn right he does. But just because Garnacho has been in the squad since he was 17 doesn't mean he doesn't need the same amount of time to develop, you know. And I think that's the issue with Garnacho, you know. I think, and it is very easy to see that, you know, he's been basically in the first team squad since he was 17. So it's easy for us to go, he's had 3 years. Not having him anymore. He's had 3 years. Yeah, lads, he's had 3 years from 17 to 20, you know. Let's see what he does between 20 and 23 and then make a judgment call on him, because at 23 years of age, he's not even in his prime. He's probably 2 to 3 years outside of his prime at that stage. So, yeah, I just don't want to jump the gun too quick. I really don't. Ben says, I think it's all a case of a good offer coming in for him, and that's a good point as well. And look, I don't think there's many players in this squad that don't have a price tag on their head at the moment. And I think if an offer comes in that Man United go, oh yeah, I do think they'll seriously look at it. And I think Garnacho, I mean, if an offer of 60 or 70 million come in for Garnacho, I think you probably have to take it. I would reluctantly take it. I would like to have guys lined up that can, you know, I wouldn't want to get rid of Garnacho at 20 years of age and buy another 20-year-old who's going to be ready in 2 years' time. Bollocks to that, you know. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Passat says he'll never sell Garnacho. D says, I hear you, and it's a solid point, but would you forfeit an additional 20 million on the price tag now to give him 12 months and help him end up not being able to adapt, not being able to... Well, look, if it's 60 this summer and 40 next summer, I would go, right, that's okay, let's do that. I'll keep him for another 12 months on that. Yeah, I will. I'd take a 20 million chance on him. I really would. How many goals has he? So, he's got 11 goals this season. He's got 10 assists. I mean, it's not a bad return for a 20-year-old, lads. It just isn't. You know what I mean? It just isn't a bad return. I really don't think it is. He has 6 goals in the Premier League, 2 assists, 1 goal in the Europa League, 4 assists there. He's got an assist in the FA Cup. He's got 3 goals in the Carabao Cup and 3 assists, and he obviously scored in the Community Shield. And as well as he scored in an FA Cup final last year as well. You know what I mean? I mean, we were talking at the start of June last year, we were talking about building a team around Manu and Garnacho. You know what I mean? Let's not judge him on one season when he's that age. That's what I would say. Anyway, let's move it on. Want to talk real quick, guys. Final couple of points here before we finish up. But want to talk about a left back that used to be at Manchester United, but is now at Benfica, and that is Alvaro Carreras. He doesn't want to be called Fernandez anymore, I think. But anyway, nonetheless, Marca, coming out, of course, from Spain, have said that Alvaro Fernandez has become one of Real Madrid's priorities. He has a €50 million release clause at Benfica, but Manchester United retain an €18 million buyback option that expires on the 31st of December. So, obviously, that would take us through this transfer window. Madrid's biggest concern for the deal is United, but the player has made it clear he does not want to return to England. Okay, now, number of different points here. Okay, first and foremost, he's not coming back to United. Okay, he's not coming back to United. Second of all, I don't think United would need him back, to be honest, because we're after getting Dargu, we're after getting Diego Leon, and obviously Harry Amas is coming through the ranks as well. Now, you would probably say that Alvaro Fernandez has maybe more experience than any of them players, and that might be true. Absolutely, it might be true. But I mean, are you gonna renege on Diego Leon? Are you gonna sell Harry Amas? Are you gonna sell Dargu to bring Alvaro Fernandez back? No, you're not. Now, is there a scenario here? Is there a scenario where Manchester United could trigger the €18 million buyback option on Alvaro Fernandez and instantly sell him to Real Madrid for a higher price? I don't know if that's plausible, if it's doable. You can let me know in the comment section if it is. And you would say that to Alvaro Fernandez. He does not want to come back to United. And that's fine. That's fair enough. No problems with that at all. But you could say to the player, listen, we're going to trigger that 18 million buyback on you. Okay? Technically, you're going to be our player, but we're going to flip you instantly to Real Madrid for €50 million. And we're going to get, what's that, a €32 million profit on you. And he will go, grand, I'll just go on holidays, you sort it out, and I'll fly to Real Madrid when you've got it done. Brilliant, happy days. If that's something that Manchester United can do, and that's well within the parameters, then brilliant, happy days. Then we absolutely should do it. But I think Alvaro Fernandez coming back to Manchester United is not an option with the kind of recruitment we've done with Dargu, with Diego Leon, and of course with Harry Amas coming through. We don't need another left back. We really don't. What do you think? Anything? He'd have more assists if he stopped attempting ridiculous shots. Is he? That's in relation to Garnacho. Bring him back, lad, back now. He doesn't want to come back, then fuck him. See, there you go, you're jumping the gun, D. You're jumping the gun. Anyway, I want to talk real quick, guys, before we finish up, about the Matchday Squad that's travelled down to Chelsea on for tomorrow's game. We will be doing a watch along for it, so make sure you're tuning in for that, guys. But yeah, the squad has travelled. We've got a Matchday Squad of Onana, Binder and Heaton. Defenders, Matraoui, Maguire, Lindelof, Heaven, which is great. Heaven is back. It's fantastic. Fredrickson, Shaw, Dargu and Amas. Midfielders then, Casemiro, Ugarte, Ericsson, Collier, who's back as well, which is fantastic. Menu, Mount, Bruno. And then attackers, Ahmad, Garnacho and Højlund. So what are we thinking there? I mean, first and foremost, play Binder in the goal. Give Onana the day off. No injuries there, please. Back three, I would probably go... is Heaven available to start? I would go with Heaven. I would definitely go with Fredrickson. And maybe Luke Shaw. Wing backs then, you're probably have to go... I want to rest Matraoui, so I'd go Amas and Dargu. Midfielders, two number sixes, I would go Toby Collier and Christian Eriksen. In the tens, Menu and Mount. Menu and Ahmad, maybe. I don't want to risk Ahmad. Menu and Garnacho, because I don't think Garnacho's going to start next Wednesday. And then Højlund up front. I'm surprised we're not bringing somebody like Chido Obi there just to play him. But anyway. But look, again, guys, it's going to be interesting to see how we line up tomorrow night. And it's a big call out of Ruben Amorim. It's a big call, because the last thing we want to see now is overplaying players tomorrow, and then we get a couple of injuries, and it's just it's an absolute fucking shit show then. But anyway, guys, we will be live tomorrow night for the game, so make sure you're tuning in for that. Hit that notification bell if you haven't done so already, if you're subscribed to the channel. And if you're not subscribed, why aren't you subscribed? I think there's 56 or 57% of people who watch are not subscribed. So if that was the case, we would be probably on 35,000 subscribers. So yeah, please do subscribe if you're watching. It helps out the channel an awful lot. Hit the like button, comment underneath your thoughts on everything we've discussed, share it with your friends, all that good stuff, and follow us on social media. All the links are down below. But guys, I do appreciate you watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow for the United game. What time are we playing at? I'm pretty certain it's 8 o'clock. It's 8:15, so we'll be live from about 7:45, half an hour before the game. Hope to see you then, guys. Have a great evening. Have a great tomorrow. Chat to you tomorrow night. Take it easy. Good luck.